I'm back, ready to discuss day 10. I hope you're all here waiting to discuss day 10 as well. I'm going to do what I normally do, which is go over some of the key matches that are impacting the actual race for the U show. Got a couple notes on the side about interesting things that are going on, and then I leave it up for you guys if you have any questions, comments, things you want to talk about, etc. So, first I want to talk a little bit about Wakamoto Haru. Wakamoto Haru has been having a very interesting tournament. It's almost like once everybody stopped talking about his Ozeki bid and kind of forgot about him, all of a sudden he looks like the dominant guy that he used to be. And, he's somewhat in the race still, 7-3. I have a feeling that this is not going to be a dominating tournament. The only guy who has only one loss is Kotonowaka, so I do not think Kotonowaka will win out. I could be wrong about that, though. He's looking pretty strong, but he hasn't faced all the guys that can really tell us if he's as strong as we think he is. So anyway, speaking of which, let's talk about it. Kotonowaka faced Onosato today. This was a very exciting match for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason being that, before the tournament even started, John sort of surmised that it was quite possible that Onosato, could put together quite a few wins. And then, of course, he makes the giant leap into the discussion of, Onosato was his pick. But, of course, it seemed somewhat far-fetched. I mean, he's a brand new guy. But he's been looking very good. But this match against Kotonowaka was the first real test against, this is the cream of the crop, the top of the top division. Kotonowaka is one of the biggest guys and very similar, actually, in stature to Onosato. So it was a nice test for Onosato, nice test for Kotonowaka, who obviously is trying to make a statement. And the interesting thing was, I think Onosato's nerves got the best of him. I'm going to stop for a minute because I see a comment that there is an odd sound in the background, like a wavy buzzing. I'm going to try something and then you tell me if that buzzing goes away. Did the buzzing go away or did it get worse? Oh, I hate when the buzzing thing happens. Some weird thing in my connection. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let me know if it goes away. If it doesn't, my strongest apologies. Daniel says that he heard that Wakamoto Haru had an infection last basho. Well, that would explain a lot. Simply because he kind of seemed to fall out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden, he just dropped out. He wasn't the same guy, and I didn't quite understand why. Okay, so the buzzing is the same. This is tricky because it's hard to troubleshoot something like that in the middle of talking, and when I did the test, there was no buzzing. So, let me see. Give me a moment, guys. Hey Adam, that buzzing sound is happening apparently.
What buzzing sound?
I think the one that you got with Pete. On the stream, and I have no idea why. I just unplugged the mic. So I'm going to plug this mic in. I don't know if that'll make a difference. But I'm live right now. He says it's fixed because you can't hear anything. Now it's back. There's a buzzing without a microphone even being plugged in.
Oh, I think I know plug it in.
Okay. As soon as I plug it in, you're going to be talking.
That's fine. Well, no.
Is it fixed? It's not something I can hear on my end. Okay, well, the last note I have from Daniel is that it's better. Anyway, okay, it's good. Great, thanks. Thanks for your patience. We'll go back to talking about Wakamoto Haru now. Kind of hard to fix things when you can't hear them yourself, so I don't know what that was. Maybe a cord issue. Anyway, so back to Wakamoto Haru. So an infection would make sense because he sort of just stopped working and you couldn't see any obvious injury. So illness would be the next logical step. So anyway, back to now, Kotonowaka and Onosato. Onosato looked very, very nervous. Obviously, he had every reason to be nervous. This was his first really big match, and now he's, in the Yusho contention. This is where you start to look at guys. It's not a guarantee, but, Yeah, I'll throw some salt in that mic, all right, Stargazer. So here you got these two giant guys going chest to chest, and Kotonowaka just bulldozed Onosato out. The nerves had a lot to do with it because he just blew it on the Tachi-ai. But it does show you there is a big difference in power between the two. And I think Onosato is going to learn quite a bit from that. When he's fighting other guys, like Kirishima and Hoshoryu, I still think those guys are deceptively strong. They don't look that strong comparatively to Kotonowaka, but man, they can really overpower you. But I think Onosato and Kotonowaka physically match up very well, and to see Kotonowaka kind of blow him out like that shows me that Onosato, he's still got some Jurio power in him. He's got to work a little harder, unfortunately. But still, he's 8-2. He's still in the race, and anything can happen. I'm not gonna throw my hat in on whether he's gonna win or not, but it's gonna be interesting. So next we have Hoshoryu versus Daisho. Hoshoryu in the race, 8-2. Hoshoryu is so strong and vicious, man. It was such a sad thing to see what happened to poor Hokuto Fuji. As you might imagine, John was, not thrilled. But man, Hoshoryu, he's got a bum knee, and he is still throwing guys out of the ring, just that last minute aggressive push. And it shows you that you can never really count him out as a Yusho winner. He's always got the chance to just sneak right in and take it away. So it's going to be very interesting when Hoshoryu and Kirishima fight, especially considering we got to see what the records are, because it could mean a lot less. But man, if they are neck and neck, the whole thing could come down to the fight between those two. Okay, so we have a little bit more Wakamoto Haru stuff. Wakamoto Haru has fought the top guys already, so he's an outside chance of the Yusho. He sure does. He's really the sleeper pick. A lot of people say Hoshoryu is the sleeper pick, but Hoshoryu is just always a pick. The guy finds a way to hang around the top consistently. But Wakamoto Haru, he is the sleeper pick this time. And Daniel says, looked it up. It was a respiratory infection. Wish I knew that before the basho. Are you talking about the infection? I had no idea about that. That's very interesting. Where did you look that up, Daniel? Because I had no idea he was sick like that. But that explains everything. My goodness. So here I've been kind of counting the guy out, and I don't know, he might have a resurgence that no one is even talking about. So next we have Onosho versus Kirishima. So everybody wants a piece of Kirishima. It's amazing to see how much everyone has stepped up their game the minute they get in the ring with him. I mean, everybody's eyes, I'm sure he's got most of the top, the most amount of envelopes. Maybe Terunofuji still does, but Kirishima's probably pretty up there. And everybody's got their eyes on every match that Kirishima fights. And so guys are coming for him. And Onosho was a great example today. I mean, he threw all of his power, all of his effort. He tried to stick to him. He did everything he could. And for a brief moment, you questioned, like, is Kirishima going to get out of this one? And he did. And I would say that's a pretty consistent thing that's been going on this tournament for Kirishima. He has looked beatable, but he hasn't necessarily been beaten. Sure, he has 2 losses, but that's really nothing. But he's had a couple of close calls. He's had a couple of, glad that didn't go wrong. And what I would say is it's interesting to watch him because he's such a pro. It's like sometimes you don't get the best of a guy in a match, but if you still win, that's all that matters. And he doesn't seem to panic. He seems to be very calm and very focused, which is something I'm not used to with Yokozuna contenders. No slight on my guy, but, he's not necessarily calm when things start to go wrong. So kudos to Kirishima. I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly don't know if he's going to pull this off or not. There's a couple of guys in here who they're hungry. They have their own thing going, and they'd like nothing more than to stop him. So it might not happen, but he has put himself in a position where I do believe he can win. Like he can pull off that, last minute twirl or a last minute throw. So my confidence in him is not shaken, but I still think it's way up in the air as to whether he's going to pull it off or not. And finally, we have Terunofuji versus Kim Bozan. And I think we all know this tournament has shown us how badly Terunofuji is not, he's not the same man anymore. He's pretty beat up. His stamina's not there. But boy, half of a Terunofuji is still tougher than, we'll say 80% of the wrestlers in the ring. So he fights Kim Bozan, has a hard time in terms of he was very cautious. He didn't put him away right away. But he still took him down. He's a Yokozuna. His upper body is massive and strong, and he's got the experience and he's got the grit. And I think the only reason he's still in this tournament is probably because everybody wants to see him fight Kirishima. That's one factor. The other factor is I can almost guarantee the earthquake is the reason that everybody entered this tournament, even though many people were in no shape to be there. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So, he's sticking in there, but man, if this was a different tournament, he would have been out by now. But he is clawing and scraping and trying to be in the race. And the next couple of days could be absolutely amazing depending on how some of these matchups turn out. I mean, we're talking the top guys fighting the top guys for the U show. There's always usually like a guy in there. And Onosato and Onosho are the two, lower ranked guys who are in there. But everybody else is a top guy. And so this is going to get wild. Pretty wild. Okay, so Monster says the crowd has been going crazy for Terunofuji. I'm sure the crowd knows that this is likely, his last tournament, if not one of his last tournaments. I really do believe that if Kirishima gets the Yokozuna promotion, Teru will retire very shortly after. I could be wrong, but I think that's going to be the case. If Kirishima doesn't get it, we might get a retirement anyway. I don't know. Daniel says there was an interview with his Oyakata with Takarada Sports where he explained he was ill for a while. Oh, okay. Well, this is why you guys are great. I had no idea. And it would explain why it would be multiple tournaments. He was so off. He wasn't doing any of his at the edge throws that he does. He was sort of just very listless and just hanging in there, but I didn't see any taped ankles or knees, and he didn't have the energy, and that makes perfect sense. So let's go over the matchups for tomorrow and the scenarios for tomorrow, and then we can talk about some other special topics I have here. So tomorrow, Hoshoryu fights Ono Sato. I cannot wait for that match. That's going to be wild. Like I said, so Kotonowaka Ono Sato, they match up very well in terms of they are very similar in stature, very similar in style. It really is a power versus power match. An Ono Sato Hoshoryu match is a different kind of match because, like I said, Hoshoryu is actually deceptively powerful. He looks small, but man, he can really blast you. What he does is he throws you off. So today in his match, he kind of grabbed Onosho's knee a little bit and just sort of flipped it a little bit, got him just slightly enough off balance that he could just do whatever he wanted to him. And that's the thing about Hoshoryu. He can do any number of moves on you. And if you're a big guy, you really have to worry because you can't always see everything that he's going to do. And Hoshoryu seems to be in a mood. He's always in a mood, but he's in a special kind of mood this time. I think it's the knee. Probably hurts a lot. And it's going to take a lot of grit for him to fight through the pain. B, I think he does not want Kirishima leapfrogging over him. C, he is just always out to prove something. And the thing is if he wins the Shusho, then he goes on the Yokozuna run. So Hoshoryu is in a special, angry, want to prove things kind of place, and that's going to bring some fantastic sumo as long as the knee holds up. Next, we have Terunofuji will be fighting Onosho. They are both 8-2. This is another interesting match. Typically, I would not say that because Terunofuji should be able to handle Onosho. It's a little bit of a surprise that Onosho is doing as well as he's doing. Not that he hasn't always been capable of this. It's just that he is the most inconsistent wrestler in terms of he gets, 2 and 13, 2 and 13 records, and then he has records like this where he's in the Yusho. He has quite a powerful pushing and thrusting technique. His original issues were just very poor footwork and just getting overzealous and just being very easy to just topple over. He fixed that, but then his knees got hurt, and then he was doing the injury circuit thing. So we're seeing a version of Onosho that I'm not sure. Is it a new version where he's figured out the footwork and the knees are better? Or is this just sort of what he does? Like he's having a hot streak and it's going to fizzle out. He's going up against a Terunofuji who he's really weak actually to the blast out. Because if he has to go backwards on those knees, unless he really wants to fight for it, it's not worth it. So if Onosho gets the best of him on the Tachi-ai, he could beat him in that match. It would be over very quickly. But Terunofuji knows this, so I'm sure he has a plan. And then I'm going to read a couple of these comments before I continue. Monster says, hot take, I don't like watching Onosato matches because he either dominates the other guy or gets dominated himself. That's just because he's new, I think. Give him some time to really understand the ring. He has not been around that long, and I think his matches will become far more exciting. I don't see him necessarily as a guy who, can only do one thing, but I mean, he's got to be pretty nervous considering that he just got into the top division and now he's fighting the top guys. So I think that will change. He needs some time. And then Daniel says, Onosho got 2 Fusen wins. Yeah, that's a fairly good point. I mean, those 2 Fusen wins probably, they bring him up to the 8-2. Had he lost those matches, we're not even talking about him right now. So there's a little bit of luck here. Like is needed. Even the best guys need a little bit of luck in sumo because it's always like on the edge. So now we have Kirishima versus Daisho tomorrow. Daisho really started off this tournament pretty hot. And then all of a sudden, he's kind of, I don't know, like his match today was just very weird with Hoshoryu. It was extremely weird. I don't know. I don't know if he's hurt. Very possible that he's hurting again. He's dealing with perpetual injuries. That's my guess. And now he's into the second week and it's getting harder and harder to, be the tough guy that he is. So I think there's a very good chance he loses that match with Kirishima tomorrow. They have the history, and Kirishima has beaten him in the most important matches. However, never underestimate the pressure that Kirishima's under. If he makes one false move, maybe Daisho sees the opening and takes that match. But I'm guessing that Kirishima will win that match tomorrow. And then we have Kotonowaka versus Oho, another surprise of the tournament. But, we'll get more into this on the recap show about how we feel about Oho. But it's interesting that he's put himself in a position to be fighting the top guys. Of course, Kotonowaka is the only one without a really, massive opponent tomorrow, and he is the lead guy with the 9-1 record. So I expect Kotonowaka to beat Oho tomorrow, but Oho has a sort of inner ability that we just never see come to fruition. So it could be very interesting if Oho shows up tomorrow, because then this race is even more wide open. But it's interesting that Kotonowaka really is showing that this is the time that he's going to make his move for Ozeki, and he's looking the best he's ever looked. It's a little surprising because he's always been a big guy. He's always been a strong guy, but he never put everything together to win the big matches. And he still hasn't had the big matches yet. So I reserve my opinion of whether this is going to just fizzle out or not. But, Kotonowaka fighting Kirishima, Hoshoryu, you might be talking about something very different. But they have their own stuff they're working through. So it's the wild, wild west, I tell you. So we got a couple comments here. Daniel says, it's kind of insane he's facing the Yokozuna, considering the highest ranked guy he's faced so far is Maegashira 12 West Miyogiru. Yeah, tell me about it. I was a little surprised, but you almost got to wonder if they're trying to keep, and they do this. They're probably trying not to give Terunofuji any of the tough matches until he needs to do the tough matches. I mean, they were really throwing him a bone there, giving him, oh no show tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see. It could be very interesting. Like I said, we've seen Takekeisho beat Terunofuji when both of them were in much better shape on a blast out. And we know that Terunofuji is not in good shape right now. So if Onosho can get him on the Tachiai, it's going to be very interesting. But I'm guessing Terunofuji's planning to clamp down with that Kimidashi. I'm sure he's got that planned. He might even let him inside so that he can clamp down and just escort him right on out. Hello, Mitch. I'm glad that you came. Very, very glad to see you. Because we haven't talked about Tobizaru yet, so it's going to be fun. Because I have a lot to say about Tobizaru. Monster says, mark me down for predicting Kotonowaka wins. His sumo has been rock solid. I think it's a pretty solid pick, honestly. It's a little up in the air, like I said, because I feel like Hoshoryu is always lurking. But then we have Wakamoto Haru just coming out of nowhere. And we have Kirishima, who needs to win to guarantee his promotion. But Kotonowaka does look the best. So it's really going to come down to the top guys fighting the top guys. Bob Gob says, who will fill the Sanyaku spots that will open in Komusubi and maybe Sekiwake? Well, we would have to take a look at records to see what's going on there, which we can do in a moment. Let's see, where's my tab here? Okay, so... Well, Ura's not going to be in Komusubi. So let's say Kirishima goes up to Yokozuna. Presumably, if Kotonowaka does the right stuff that he has to do, he could possibly be Ozeki at the end of this. But we've got Komusubi, Ura's going out. Maegashira 2 Abi is likely going out. Wakamoto Haru will take a spot, assuming he doesn't have a massive collapse. Atami Fuji looks like he's not going to be in it. Yeah, we don't have people to fill the spots. Like, Daisho needs to win out just to keep Sekiwake good. And Wakamoto Haru. So that's about it. Unless Abi has a miracle comeback, it's possible. It's gonna be a little thin at the top. All right, let's go back to the chat. Daniel says, Oho versus Kotonowaka should be interesting if Oho gets up for it. Similar size, both grandchildren of Yokozuna's, sons of Sekiwake, and both went to Tama Sakai. I'm pretty sure, like, people are pumped for this match. Like, the Japanese fans in particular, anybody with the legacy stuff. This should be a really cool, awesome match. But Oho has to show up. Oho has been very disappointing. And I'm not trying to, get negative on the guy. But he has been very disappointing, unfortunately. So I hope he really is up for it. I hope they give each other an awesome match that we can be talking about for years to come when they're both, I'm sure Kotonowaka is going to be at the top. I don't know what's going to happen to Oho. But this could be an opportunity for him to really, taste what it's like to be up top and work harder, because I'm guessing there's some training issues there. And Mitch says, as do I. I try to keep it peachy for the neutral audiences. Yes, you see, Mitch, there are many people who do like Tobizaru. There are not many Tobizaru haters like you, although he's picked up a few haters. I can't wait to talk about that. I was like, oh, there's going to be a new Mitch fan club, because a couple of people were pretty angry with him. And of course, Monster says, Komusubi Tobizaru, which I would love it. I like Tobizaru. I know why people are irritated with him, but I like him. Mitch says, Wakamoto Haru to Komusubi with any Kachikoshi, then probably the next highest rank with Kachikoshi. Hopefully not Tobizaru. Tobizaru might be the only guy. However, he's starting to... his little antics are not working so well now. He's kind of running out of gas there. Daniel says, Oho is weird. He owns Hoshoryu, but still struggles in the mid-Maegashira ranks. Yeah, and I'm guessing anything, it's got to be a training issue. He's probably just as talented as we all thought he was. But because he doesn't train the way you need to train, okay, you speak to Hakuho or, even, speak to Kisano Sato, Goedo, any of those guys. You've got to train like crazy to get consistent results. Otherwise, when you get in the ring, you decide, you have these weird little, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And by the time you make a decision, the match is over. You really need the muscle memory that you can only get from training and lots of practice bouts. So I'm guessing Oho has figured something out specifically with Hoshoryu. He just understands the way he moves and the way he thinks. But he doesn't have that with everybody else because he doesn't practice enough, is my guess. And then Monster says, oh yeah, I forgot we were talking about the popularity polls. Yeah, I was planning on talking about them, but I'm not ready to do an in-depth dive tonight. I'll probably have to do that Thursday on our last night of streaming. I'll get into some in-depth on some of the very funny results in that popularity poll. Maybe Tamawashi if he gets to 11 and 12 wins to Komusubi, but that's a bit of a stretch. Tamawashi is looking a little gassed. He's looking a little tired. The guy's such a grinder, though. He if anybody could figure it out, it would be him. So I'm going to give it an outside chance. There's a possibility, but I don't think it's going to happen. Daniel says, yeah, it kind of sucks. His Oyakata only got to Juryo, and his only quality guy at his stable is his younger brother. Oh, this is Oho? Well, that'll make a big impression. Like, if you don't have Oyakata who has top division experience, there's a lot of things he can't teach you. I hope Oho's stable gets absorbed by Kisa Osato's. You're going to see a huge difference in quality if Oho goes, gets some more access to training. I really think that if he did more practice bouts, he'd be in better shape. Oh, I thought that's what you meant when you were talking about Tobizaru. No. Okay, I'll get to Tobizaru now since there's some interest. As you may or may not know, I lurk around in all the sumo comment sections. I mean, I go on every sumo podcast video you can imagine, ones with matches, ones without matches, because I like to kind of get a vibe for what sumo fans are saying, and this is the closest I can get if, you're not already a subscriber to 42 Opinions, and I don't know why you wouldn't be, but just saying. Anyway, so I was lurking around on Jason's page, because I also like to rewatch the matches on Jason's page because, you can really pay attention to what's going on. And people were really upset by the kick, the little kick to Terunofuji, because it was almost like the Henka discussion. This is a cheap move. The guy's got hurt legs. How could you do this? And I thought, until people started saying that, I hadn't really thought much about that. Like, I never saw it as like a cheap move. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think anybody would have really noticed it if Terunofuji hadn't gotten so angry. And Terunofuji got angry because Tobizaru slapped him and poked him right in the eye. So that happened before the kick. And I was thinking to myself, wow, Tobizaru really wants to die today. I mean, he made Terunofuji a raging bull. So what I found very interesting about Tobizaru, if you watch sort of the after part, when it came to them facing each other to bow, Tobizaru gave a pretty half-hearted bow, and then Terunofuji was still staring him down. And Tobizaru gives another head twist to him. Like, it was almost like provoking him, like, oh, you have something else to say? He didn't look down at the ground and try to get away real quick. He looked at him like, yeah, what do you got for me? And I was like, whoa. Tobizaru's got a real spunky side to him. And then you see him in the matches. He's doing some really sneaky, aggressive kind of moves. You can tell he wants to win. He's no longer about, hey, look at how fun sumo is. It looks like he really wants to prove something. So keep an eye out on all the little goings on, because I think there's some bad blood starting to happen with Tobizaru. But the fans, now they're mixed on him. It'd be interesting to see a popularity poll going on later on, because so many people were upset about that leg kick. So he might be losing his popularity. However, every match he's in is interesting. You are never bored when Tobizaru is in a match. Okay, Kirishima goes to Otowayama stable. Oh, is that what Kakuryu's stable's going to be? I know there's talk. I think he got one. Then he's going to absorb some guys. Is that what's going on? Monster says, Tobizaru has been a highlight match every day. Best part of the Basho for me. I agree. I find Tobizaru to be very entertaining. I don't know that I'd want to wrestle the guy because, like I said, he's got an even darker side than Abi. He's not necessarily going to hanka you, but he'll do some really shady stuff. And it's all legal. So it's just be careful. Daniel asked if it was confirmed to Kwakiru, which we haven't heard a response from him. So I don't know if it's official yet, if that's happened. Monster says, Tobizaru did the leg kick the last match they fought, and Terunofuji went Kyujo the next day. Yes, and that is what people were pointing out. That is what people were pointing out as the reason they were upset. And maybe Terunofuji was kind of upset about that, but I really think it was the getting poked in the eye part that made him raging. And then when he felt the kick, it was kind of like, you little, like, I just can't stand you. Like, it was just him being an annoying little nit at that point. And Terunofuji wanted to just lay him out. It was very funny. Mitch says, Kirishima might be going to Toitsikaze. It's a bit up in the air where he goes. Okay. I'm debating putting that pic of Terunofuji strangling Tobizaru as my desktop screen. You know, I pictured a meme of, like, you know, putting Mitch on Tobizaru's face charging after, or on Terunofuji's face charging after Tobizaru. I thought that would be pretty funny. Kakadu has already branched out. What does that mean? Like, does he officially have a stable? And is he officially taking guys right now? I know there was rumblings. I know things were happening, but I didn't know if anything was official yet. So, Terunofuji even looked pissed when Tobizaru beat Kirishima the next day. Well, if you remember, too, there was the whole, Tobizaru getting dehydrated while fighting Terunofuji, and Terunofuji took so much flack for that in the press and with the fans. So there's probably already an annoyance with Tobizaru. And was it Terunofuji who fought Tobizaru when the Mawashi was loose? Or was that, who was Tobizaru fighting then? So there's this history building with Tobizaru. All these little things that happen. And he's starting to get on people's nerves. Okay, so Kakadu officially has a stable. And he has a single Rikishi in it so far. Well, I'm sure he's going to build. I can't wait. That's so exciting. I can't wait because then we get to see Kisano Sato, Hakuho, and Kakadu, and Goeido all going at it to get the top guys. That's going to be fantastic. I love it. Oh, he has two. Okay. So, one more thing on Tobizaru. His loss to Takanosho today was just so classic. It was the classic way that Tobizaru loses, except, I mean, he really went flying into the second row. And Takanosho just had him red. He planned that. And that's the thing about Tobizaru. He can do something like go after the Yokozuna and be competitive, but then like look like a silly person flying out of the ring. Just like nobody was there. So, I don't know. That Tobizaru, but it was still entertaining for me. Monster says, in retrospect, I think there were already some bad blood between them beforehand, and he and Terunofuji seem like they got some real beef. I guaranteed there is beef. There's the beef we know, and there's the beef we don't know. And lucky for Tobizaru that Terunofuji's not going to be around for much longer. Mitch says he has a Kabu and left Michinoku stable. Only guy he took with him was some dude in Division 4. That was his Subito when he was active. And then Kwakadu asks, Asanoyame not returning this Basho. The last I had heard, he was going to come back, but he was going to take a few days off, but I don't know if something has changed. I was kind of surprised he wasn't here today, so, like John and I say, Shakespearean tragedy with that guy. So I was going to go over really quick the plethora of injuries we have. I didn't want to say it when we were doing the preview show because it's not that I really believe in jinxes, but at the same time, I don't want to say the negative thing and then it happens. I was thinking we are due for an injury, like, disaster tournament. And this is not a disaster. But there are a lot of guys who are out. A lot of things that have changed. There's a lot of guys fighting who I suspect are hurt. And once again, I think a lot of people are just fighting for the sake of the earthquake. Some of the English commentators have actually said that it's on their minds and they're trying to, bring some sort of positivity, sort of be like the thing people can think about, in a positive way. So some guys are fighting hurt. It's pretty obvious. And some guys just, they're so hurt. It's done. So, we have Asanoyama. So he had the 2 years out before he could come back up. And he had all that time to get multiple injuries because he's just a little bit older and a little bit older. So he's fighting so hard and he looks so dominant in the early part of this, which made sense. He's ranked low enough. He should be, excuse me, he should be able to take those guys. But then, the injuries, they're really hard to overcome. He's got multiple injuries. He's got an issue with his arm and an issue with his calf. And I don't think he's going to be able to pull it off. I don't know that he can return to Sanyaku. He's just too beat up. Speaking of the 42 opinions wish list, Takayasu is out, so my Yusho pick is done for. This has happened to me 3 tournaments in a row. I don't think I'm going to be picking anybody anymore. I'm going to pick like retired wrestlers so that nothing bad can happen. Hokuseiho is out, so while we had the lean for several days, the lean is done. And apparently Hokuseiho has been hurt for multiple tournaments. That would explain the lean, actually. That it's like, if you want to get a win and you really don't have it, you have the ability to lean when you're as big as Hokuseiho is. And then, of course, this sad reality of Takakeisho. I knew before the tournament started that he was in no shape to fight. It was just a suspicion of mine because, like I said, I know about neck injuries. I know about them personally. I know about them sort of in totality. What it really means to have a neck injury, especially one like his. There was finally a diagnosis. I forgot the name of the diagnosis, but I had looked it up. It is a progressive condition that has any number of, severity degree with it. So it could start off as just like a little pull that you got to keep an eye on that you can heal from. But somebody who isn't a sumo wrestler, they can heal from it. A sumo wrestler is only going to make that condition worse. We don't know at this point where Takakeisho is on the severity scale. However, I can promise you his doctors have told him you should stop fighting sumo because the condition that you have will get worse and worse and worse. And the truth of the matter is you could wind up in a wheelchair. And it's everything that I expected that it was. But of course, Takakeisho was not even telling his Oyakata when his neck hurt. So with this particular thing, for Takakeisho to drop out when he had a winning score, that was a bad sign. And the fact that there is a diagnosis means he had to go to the doctor. So it hurt him enough for him to tell his Oyakata to pull out and then to go see a doctor who is guaranteed to be telling him that he should be retiring from sumo. So Takakeisho's future is very up in the air. Chris had talked about how he's not sure if he has elder stock. So if you guys hear any rumblings out there about Takakeisho elder stock, please let me know. But this is it's a very tough situation because it looks like he can't retire. I'm sure he doesn't want to retire. He's only 27 years old. But if he continues to fight, he will continue to injure his neck, and he has a wife and kid. He's not going to want to be in a wheelchair or unable to walk, or even like there's other things that are not paralysis that can happen with that neck injury. So he's got to really consider what's important. This is a tough situation. I mean, John and I talked about how Takakeisho could go in there and just not engage on the tachi. Now that's his bread and butter, but he can't do it. Which is why I got so irritated about the Hanka thing, because it's like, you give a guy a pass on the Hanka for being small, but you won't give a guy a pass with a busted neck, and everybody knows he has a busted neck. He can't head first charge you. So I think Takakeisho might be able to stick it out for a while if he does not engage in the Tachi. But he already has such a small amount of weapons at his disposal. So it's going to be rough. That's all I can say. I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. I got to go to all these comments. There's so many comments. Okay. Let's see. Can we get Onosato versus Tobizaru? I think he might be the one to send Tobizaru into the cheap seats. Yeah, I think Onosato would send Tobizaru flying into the back row. We may get that match, Mitch. I don't know when. Right now, things are so focused on the U show that they're probably not going to throw Tobizaru at him. But you never know. You never know. Monster, I used to think that Tobizaru smiling after the close losses was just because he likes sumo, but maybe there's some I'll get back at you next time vibes. That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw him be very contentious with Teruno Fuji. I don't think this guy is who we thought he was. He's not Ura. He's not like, oh yay, sumo's great. He's like, I'm going to get you. That's who I think Tobizaru is. Monster says, I'd love to see Tobizaru hit Onosato with a giant Henka. I don't know. I don't think my heart can take any more Henkas. It's too hard on me. It might be fun to watch, but I would be like, I'm not talking about it. I might launch myself into orbit if that happens. Mitch, you might have to quit watching sumo if Tobizaru has too much to say in some of these matches. He turns 30 before March Basho. Asanoyama. Yeah. He really was at his prime when he got that suspension. And that would have been the time where I think he would have been Yokozuna. I think it's such a shame how that all went down. It's like, I don't want to talk about politics and decisions and all that, but they really should have thought about what they were doing. That's all I can say. Like, really think long term. Really think about what this means for this guy. 2 years? Was it worth 2 years? I don't know. I don't make the rules. Maybe I'm just a jerk. Pick Tobizaru, perfect target for some bad juju. No, I'm going to pick Tobizaru and he's going to win the whole thing. And you're going to be in trouble. I'm mostly disappointed that we're just waiting on Aoyama's Intai announcement. No way he's coming back anytime soon. No, Aoyama, see, it's been a really bad tournament for John because Hokuto Fuji's injury, I think that's probably a pretty serious one, so he may not be back for a long time, and he's not that young either, so who knows when we're going to see Hokuto Fuji back. Aoyama is definitely, like, even if he decides not to retire right away, like, it's done for him. Like, he is in no shape to be fighting in the top division. He is going to drop. And I would guess he would retire because of that. He's already got Japanese citizenship. But elder stock, that's a whole other thing. I'm sure Hokuseiho will be back in perfect leaning form. And he'll be back in no time. Probably. But, I mean, the giant does need to rest once in a while. Those giant guys, they get all kinds of leg problems. Mitch says Takakeisho was going to have his 3-year buffer as soon as he announces. That's good that he has 3 years. John and I also talked about how as soon as Takakeisho's Yokozuna run ended, he probably started really seriously saying, okay, we got to look into we got to secure whatever we're doing to try to get in the elder stock pool. And we wouldn't even know if he got it because, I mean, how do you find out anything about Takakeisho? You don't. The guy had a son, and nobody knew about it until he was like 18 months old, and he just showed up after he won a U show. And his wife used to be like a famous model. How did they keep that a secret? Who knows? So, Takakeisho, we won't know until like 5 minutes beforehand. Asanoyama has become a real injury magnet, sad. That happens, though. Once you get that first injury, you try to overcompensate with other parts of your body and you injure the other parts of your body. This is such a thing that happens. Unfortunately. Mitch, I think Aoyama will wait it out till he can find a Kabu. I am sure that is his intention because Aoyama, went to the trouble of getting Japanese citizenship. I'm assuming he wants nothing more but to stay in sumo. Mitch says he's probably got about a year before he goes Banzuke guy. I would hope he gets one more before then. Stargazer says Takekeisho could develop a shoulder blast at the Tachi. It works to protect his neck, and his opponent wouldn't want to eat his shoulder. Yeah, he's going to have to come up with something like that. I mean, Hakuho, he had the forearm blast, he had the slap. I've seen Takekeisho do the slap. He's going to have to do something. He cannot afford to keep taking the headshots. And he knows that. And that's why you've seen this sort of weird version of Takekeisho for so long, because the condition, and I wish I had written it down. Sorry, maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow. The condition is something that starts off small. He's had it now for at least 3 or 4 years. So for 3 or 4 years, it was minor. Now, after years of continuing to do the same damaging stuff, now it's not minor anymore. Is it moderate or is it severe at this point? Another thing we'll never know. Kwakiryu, we got Teru instead of Asanoyama. Yeah, and that's a good point. And Terunofuji, honestly, would have done much better. Like, Asanoyama would not have done as much as Terunofuji. No way. He wouldn't have won as many U shows. He wouldn't have been as dominant. The matches wouldn't have been as interesting. I was never a huge fan of Asanoyama because I never felt like he lived up to his potential when he had it. But I like the new Asanoyama who's fighting so hard. I always have to root for an underdog. I just can't help myself. Monster says Koto Echo also looking like he's going Intai soon. Went Kyujo again in Juryo, and none of his matches were pretty. Koto Echo, I think, did they say he was the one who had an ACL? Yeah, Koto Echo that's tough. I think he's done for too as well. Because he's going to drop so low. Not everybody is Terunofuji or Ura. And are like, I'm going to fight. Like, some guys, they just, this ain't worth it anymore. So, I could see it happening. Mitch says, if Takekeisho decides to hang it up, but wait before stating his 3-year Kabu buffer, he would probably wait until November because he would still be getting a salary until then. And I'm sure that's what he's most concerned with. I mean, one of the things I saw is Takekeisho was also a high school dropout. He basically, maybe that's changed. Maybe he went back and did night school or something. But Takekeisho dedicated everything to sumo. He was going to be a sumo star. Everything was about sumo. He's going to go, work under Takanohana. And, now, like I said, he has a wife and a kid. And he's got to be able to take care of himself. A lot of these guys have college degrees and things like that, including Daisho. He's got to make very, very careful decisions on what he's going to do as far as the money situation. And what's his future going to look like? If he doesn't stay in sumo, what's he going to do? I'm sure he thought he was going to fight a lot longer than it looks like he actually is going to fight. But, I'm hoping that the situation isn't nearly as dire as it feels like it is. Because he's out there working his connections and, but it's not a pretty situation. Daniel said, I know Toyanoshima had a Tachi that avoided head contact, but Toyanoshima is more of a belt guy. Yeah, because you could sort of slip to the side and, I don't want to say a hanko, but like you could shift a little bit. You could go for the belt. Takekeisho can't go for the belt. His whole plan was, I'm going to blast you out on the Tachi. I'm going to knock you so far that all I got to do is 1 or 2 more pushes and you're done. Well, that's not working. So he tried the parries. He's tried the, the fake outs, the hand pulls. He's tried to get a little rough. Like he's done some slaps and some real almost like boxing kind of stuff, boxing like for sumo kind of stuff. But he's running out of things. Lately, the last thing I saw him do was headbutt a guy out of the ring, basically. He just head first charged, which was, it's like, what are you doing, man? And Kwakadu says, "Oh, Takakeisho. Yeah, this is a very devastating thing to me." And I was going through and I was watching different sumo podcasts and different, articles and things like that. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, Takakeisho's young. He'll be fine." It's like, you guys don't get it. It doesn't matter how old you are with a neck problem. That's it, man. As soon as he got that, it was over. It's kind of a miracle and amazing all that he has accomplished considering it. Like how he managed to stay Ozeki all this time is pretty cool. But the days are coming to an end. It's a very, very sad thing, but that's unfortunately where we are. Expect like the biggest, hugest Takakeisho tribute ever when there's an official announcement. I am going to stay up for a million nights to make the best tribute video possible. And so I'm already planning it now. I gotta start my grieving process. I don't know. Mitch, you make me laugh. Now that you mentioned that, I'm kind of disappointed that we're not going to get Takakeisho slapping the piss out of Kotonowaka at this boss show. Yeah, I really enjoy their matches because Takakeisho doesn't care, man. He's just like a good pro. Like I was saying about Kirishima, he's going to win and he's going to fight you. Like it's going to be a real fight. Like the people that say Takakeisho, oh, he's only got one move. You're not really watching what's going on. You're in a brawl if you're fighting with Takakeisho, okay? I'm sure those guys are not thinking, oh, I got this. Takakeisho's only got one move. They're thinking, man, this is going to suck. Monster says, Takakeisho is the kind of guy that should have documentaries made about him. He's one of a kind. 100%. The people who say such, ridiculous things about Takakeisho really aren't paying attention. They've kind of made up their mind and they're watching the sumo very sort of two-dimensional, like, okay, we charge at the Tachi-ai. He slapped. They're not watching like all that. When somebody tells me that Takakeisho has only one move, it's like you're not really watching the match. You're really not. Okay, so he doesn't throw and he doesn't do all this other stuff that other guys are doing, but there's a lot of psychology in the matches. There's a lot of brutality in the matches. And Takakeisho has done things that no one else has been able to do. And he's had a busted neck for years. Literally years. And busted knees. All these other guys have dropped down. Even the great Terunofuji dropped down from injuries. Takakeisho just fought through all of them. How he survived, I don't know. He's crazy. But yeah, I think he should have a documentary made out of him. He carried sumo. Well, nobody else could reach the top. And then everybody's going to like complain about a stupid hankout with a guy who's got years left in his career who will be fine. He's a big boy. He'll be fine. Mitch, there's still a meme I want to make, but I have zero Photoshop skills to make it happen. Takakeisho's face photoshopped on Dr. Bitch Slap from SNL. Well, you need to figure out the skills because, we need some memes. Stargazer, would Takakeisho retire as an Ozeki or go down fighting like Koto Shogiku? That is the question. John and I talk about this all the time. Like, is he the type that would say, you know what? I want to retire on top. Or is he the type who'd be like, no, I'm going to fight until they drag my body out of here. I think there's both of those sides exist in Takakeisho, but I think that he would make the more, the more mature move now. Takakeisho at 22, yeah, he would just let himself be dragged out of the ring, do whatever it took to win. Takakeisho at 27 with a wife and a son, he's going to be a little bit more cautious about his decisions. Kwakadu most likely retire after losing Ozeki. I think at this point, yes. If he wasn't super injured, no way. Because that guy is a fighter. That guy he has so much fight in him and nobody notices it. No way are you going to see Takakeisho fight as a Maegashira. That's not going to happen. It'll be over. So, I mean, that's what's been crazy about the Takekisho journey. How many times has he been on the edge of losing Ozeki because physically he couldn't do the job anymore? And he finds a way to fight through it. And he just keeps succeeding at a great cost to the quality of his life. I think it's admirable, but it's also crazy. It's admirable because you like strength and you like to see somebody who just doesn't give up. But it's crazy because any match could be, like, it could go really wrong. Like when I saw him collapse against Ichi Nojo, I was really upset. And everybody ignored it. Like all these like people talking about the Hanka. It's like, did you see what happened to the man? And then he says in the interview, this happens all the time. That's not good. That is really not good. The man's insane. But that's why I like him. Quackadoo says, a documentary is a must. It is a must. I hope someday, the colloquial phrase, I hope someday Takekisho is given his flowers. Where people are like, wow, he actually was amazing. And all the stupid nitpicking that we did was meaningless. Because this guy was a fighter. He did everything that Sumo asked of him. He never complained. You never saw like he was always a tough guy in the interviews. He kept to himself. He did all the things a tough guy is supposed to do. And he made a lot of sacrifices. And without him, I think Sumo would have had much, much more rockier times. Mitch says, if he fights it out, he might go the Koto Oshu route of retiring after blowing Ozekiwaki. Very possible as well. He might take it to that point. But as we know, we're talking about this now, he is Kadoban. So this whole scenario that we're talking about could happen as soon as March. One of two things are going to happen. Because I don't know I don't know where he is on the scale of that neck injury. Because if you're at the very end of the scale, you need surgery. And that's just to give you back some usage of your body. It's never going to cure you. That's how bad this situation can get. So if he's in the moderate range, he can do one of two things. He can come into March and fight the way he has been, limping through it, just to get himself safe and then take another tournament off. Or he could take the risk he took at the very first time he was Ozeki and not fight in March and be Ozekiwaki. And so no matter how you see it, we're in a very precarious situation with him. Like, his career could be over very soon. We're all talking about Teruno Fuji. It could be Takekisho too. Horrible. I really hope that's not what's coming. And of course, Mitch has a terrible joke. At least they won't have to reach too far to hand him his flowers. Not funny, Mitch. Kind of funny, but not funny. Okay. He did Ozekiwaki before, but he was young. Yes, basically he got Ozeki, gets a knee injury right away, probably from overtraining. You know, I blame Takanohana for all of this because he had to do all that crazy stuff, and then Takekisho loses his mentor. So he gets the knee injury. Immediately, his Oyakata, who had taken over for Takanohana, said, listen, you're only 21 years old. You don't want to risk a permanent injury. So they made the decision together for him to sit out 2 tournaments in a row, become Ozekiwake, with the thought that he'd get the 10 wins, and he did it. And then he stayed Ozeki ever since. But he was in that situation at 21, I believe. Monster says, I want desperately to still believe in Takekisho, so for now I will do that. Mitch says his Kadoban would be in March, followed by Ozekiwake in May. Correct. So the question is, will he come back in March and try to fight it out? Or will he not even give it a shot and risk it all in May? Because if he does lose it, we're probably losing him. But I don't know. I really don't know. We talk about the Takekisho pride. What is the more prideful thing? Going down to Maegashira or retiring at 27 years old? But then again, I mean, he's not going to get any better. This is what I keep saying. This injury does not get better. It is chronic. It is progressive. Quackadoo, he's been Ozeki for over 4 years. Wow. Yes, he's been Ozeki for over 4 years. Well, he's had to wait for all these other guys. The Yokozunas were only showing up once in a while. The Ozekis were pinballing up and down, up and down, up and down. You got to become Yokozuna every other tournament. And he's fighting year after year after year with nobody to help him. He's the top of the card. And without the benefits of being able to take tournaments off. And yet, there's so many haters out there. And to which I would say to the haters, what have you done for sumo that allows you to speak so ill of someone who's sacrificed everything for sumo? Okay? I'm a little salty because I'm afraid we're going to be losing him soon. So I'm salty. Gotta be. Mitch, the stupid thing when he became Ozeki and got hurt that first basho was him coming back to then go Kyujo a second time. I have no idea what the hell they were thinking at that time. Yeah, that wasn't a smart move. You know, it's one of those tricky things, right? Where injuries are always, you never know what to do with an injury. You don't know if you can fight through it or not. I actually recently got my own injury at karate class, and I was like, oh boy. And it's pretty significant, like, you know, pretty significant pain. And I thought to myself, wow, I don't know how Takakeisho does this, because I can't even walk. Monster says, I'm loving the rant. Don't apologize. Why, thank you. Because you know what? When I'm writing comments to people, they just say really outrageous things to me. And then I start writing, and it's pointless. I'll get the rant out right now. I think the Takakeisho hate is ridiculous. And I think if you've done nothing for sumo, you shouldn't even open your mouth about Takakeisho. Just my opinion. The Takas in sumo, man. The Taka name is a curse. Taka no Hana goes down. Taka Noiwa with getting bashed with the remote. Taka Genji. I forget what his brother's name was. Getting kicked out. Takakeisho's injured all the time. Taka no Sho's injured all the time. It's done. The Takas cannot win. It's sad. It's a very sad thing. But anyway, sorry for that long rant. I'm sure I'll get some down votes on that, but I don't care. Sumo wrestlers probably get crazy painkillers. Guaranteed. We can say that when we saw the craziness of Tsurugisho last tournament. We can say that for Tochinoshin. You want to talk about a guy who fought through pain. That man was in pain every day of his life. And he fought and fought and fought and fought. Oh, he's a guy who deserves all the documentaries too. Because Tochinoshin, never going to get another guy like him either. I miss him very dearly. Very, very dearly. I wish he'd come back, but he's got a whole other life in Georgia, so I'm going to remember this rant every time I see someone complaining about the way a Rikishi fights. I hope so. Like I said, people come at me so hardcore about defending Takakeisho, and I don't care. I don't care. You can think what you want to think, but I'm very passionate about this topic. I've been following him a very long time, and I just don't want to hear it. I guess I have to hear it because I do opinions, but I'm going to fight. I will fight for Takakeisho. I want to be the president of the American Takakeisho fan club. Takatariki with the betting stuff. Takatariki, yep. Yes. Tochinoshin's famous butt bandages. That would be all the pain injections. Yep. That man needed a lot of, he was hurt all over the place. How he got up every day and continued to fight I hope he has a great life right now. Allow me to bring some happiness into your world. Wakataka Kage, 5-0 with a guaranteed promotion to Juryo. Why, thank you, Mitch. That is great news. I want to hear... This is the new way. Everybody give me the most positive stuff you can. And I'm just not going to think about the Takakeisho thing until March. Or until the recap show. I guess I'll have to talk about it again. But before then, I'm not going to think about it. I would love to see Wakataka Kage back. I really thought that guy was destined for Yokozuna, so I hope he makes it back without any other injuries. Stargazer, I did a very small thing for Sumo. I gave a shout for Yoshikaze that Murray read during the show. A text in your comment thing NHK did for a bit. A text in your comment thing NHK. Oh, that is very cool. Well, Stargazer, you can talk about Takakeisho then, because you've done something for Sumo. But if you haven't had at least a comment read, you can't talk about Takakeisho. I am kidding to some degree. So I don't want any haters. I have some haters, but, come on. Take it with a grain of salt. I miss Yoshikaze as well. That man was a brawler. He was so great. He does a lot of the commentary now, which is cool. I missed all those, like the Sumo Primetime live stream and everything. That I was disappointed. Okay, guys. I've ranted for I don't even know how long. I've read all the comments. We've gone over everything. So I'm going to call it. I'll be back tomorrow night. 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. We'll have lots to talk about because we have some big matches. And I hope you all come. I hope you all come with questions and comments and all kinds of fun because it's just me talking if you guys don't show up. Mitch says, and then some bad news for me. The next Banzuke is going to be a train wreck, and I'm still royally pissed after last Guess the Banzuke. We'll talk about that as well tomorrow. So we have a couple of things outside of like the Sumo Yusho situation. We got to talk about the popularity poll, the fact that the Guess the Banzuke is going to be wild, and we're going to talk about Shimazumi as well. I was going to talk about him tonight, but I decided to wait because I want to see a couple more. I want to see what his records. I want to see a Kachikoshi. I want to talk about him if he gets his Kachikoshi. Because right now he's 6-4. So he's in a good place, but he's not there yet. Taka No Show is doing well. Yes, that is surprising and good. Oh crap, I had more I wanted to say. I was just waiting for you to finish the list. I thought there was more things on it. No, really that was it for the list. Mitch said, missed the deadline by 45 minutes and I would have finished in the second place group. I missed the deadline too. Very upset myself. I want to talk about Shonana Umi, Shimazumi, and Busho is on tomorrow then. Monster, I promise. I'm going to make a note right now because I had Shimazumi on my list. But like I said, I started to feel like I want to see another match. Because I don't want him to have some like massive collapse, but he's on my radar. I'm watching him every day very closely. Busho's on. I have a lot to say about him. And Shonana Umi is on my question mark injuries list. I believe that Shonana Umi is injured, and we're going to find that out at the end of the tournament. But we can talk about him more in depth tomorrow. I hope you guys will all come by. Thank you for coming by tonight. Thank you for listening to me rant. And enjoy the Sumo tomorrow. And yes, Shima is great, Daniel. I asked John if he's the next Ikiseyama for him. To be determined. We need a new Ikiseyama. So maybe Shimazumi will be it. I'm going to go in depth tomorrow about his style of sumo. So look forward to that. Busho's on. Let's go Diet Takakeisho. Let's avoid that immediate demotion again. I'm never going to see it. Busho's-on does not look like Takakeisho to me. And Shimazumi has been an absolute treat to watch. Can't wait to talk about him. Agreed. He's got big stars all over. We're talking about Shimazumi tomorrow. Guys, have fun. Good night. I'll see you tomorrow.